Okay. Hello everyone, a very good evening. Myself CA Dilpreet Singh would like to welcome each one of you to this very informative session on management accounting insights, and the topic for today is fundraising. First of all, I would like to thank Committee of Management Accounting for organizing this session under the chairmanship of CA Charanjot Singh Nanda sir. Thank you so much sir. And would like to thank Hisar branch of NIRC ICI for hosting this session under the chairmanship of CA Bharat Jain. I welcome you both, sir. And for today's special session, we have with us CA Ankur Mittal, sir, co-founder and chief operating officer of Inflection Point Ventures. You are very welcome, sir. And we have with us CA Gaurav Arora as well, who is also a member of ICI and also a member of Institute of Company Secretaries of India. You are also very welcome, sir. Now, I would like to ask CA Charanjot Singh Nanda, sir, to kindly enlighten us with his keynote address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have CA Bharat Jain. I would request him to give the welcome address and then I should like to proceed. Mr. Jain, the dice is all yours.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Respected members, K. Charanjot Singh Nanda ji, the chairman of the Committee of Management Accounting, vice chairman of our committee, CA Nand Kishore C. Hegde ji in his absentia, our guest of the day, CA Ankur Mittal ji, co-founder and CEO of Inflation Point Ventures, our guest speaker of the day, CA Gaurav Arora ji, my colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen, very good evening to you all. It is my immense pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of Hisar branch of NIRC of ICI in today's webinar on Management Accounting Insights. And the topic is fundraising, which is organized by Committee on Management Accounting. Now I would introduce CA Charanjot Singh Nanda ji. He is the council member for the term 29-22, the Institute of Chartered Accountant of India. He was a council member of the ICI for the period of 2004 to 2016. Now currently he is the chairman of Internal Audit Board of the ICI. He has been also the member of SEBI Advisory Committee on Primary Market and Advisory Committee on Mutual Fund. He was a member of Northern Indian Regional Council of ICI for 2 terms. He has also been the chairman of NIRC for 2002 to 2003. I welcome you all, sir. Over to you, Dilpreet ji. You are not audible, Dilpreet ji. Please unmute yourself.
Sorry, everyone. So, thank you, Bharat sir. That was really nice. So, now I would like to ask CA Charanjot Singh Nanda, sir, to kindly enlighten us with his keynote address. Over to you, sir.
A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are back yet with another exciting program of Management Accounting Insights fundraising. I welcome CA Bharat Jain, the chairman of the host branch Hisar, CA Ankur Mittal, who is the co-founder and chief operating officer of Inflection Point Ventures, and CA Gaurav Arora, who is an eminent speaker on fundraising. Ladies and gentlemen, I have with me one of a very enterprising chartered accountant, CA Dilpreet Singh, who shall be moderating this session, along with the colleagues from the committee, CA Surendra Pal and CA Gyan. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me immense pleasure to present today's session of mine. I would like to tell you that your committee is passionately involved in doing as many programs as it is possible. And the day when I took over as the chairman, we have been holding program at least one every week to ensure that membership at large is introduced to various other topics. We need to understand one thing very candidly, that the practice areas needs to be revised now. We have to set in new areas so that we are able to practice more in non-traditional areas than traditional areas. Give me a minute. I'll just put on my PPT just for a second. Is my PPT visible, Ji?
Yes, sir.
Great. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce this session. First, what is fundraising? It is an act of providing resources to finance a need, program, or project. How you get money and support for the business or create projects, or how it can be beneficial for the society's ideas. Fundraising for business is the primary responsibility of an entrepreneur. If the funds are hit by bad management, they ultimately perish, and the entire organization, the entire entity perished. So, when you move ahead motivated by great employees, happy customers, and satisfied creditors, you are able to add value, add money, add liquidity to the business that is going on. Fundraising is not for startups. Companies like Reliance are even doing fundraising till now. So it is for every business that is perpetually growing. The principles behind effective fund management. First is the holistic approach. Yes, you have to have a holistic approach. It is an overall strategy which exists and focuses mainly on how to raise fund at lower interest rates. You have to support the fundraising activity. You have to provide confidence to people who want to invest in your organization. You have to engage all stakeholders and provide competitive advantage to stand out in the busy marketplace. The second is the importance of planning. There is a saying which says people never plan to fail, they generally fail to plan. So planning is very important. The third is friend raising. Yes, what is friend raising? Friend raising is raising friends who ultimately over the years help you to raise more funds. It is your reputation. It is more fundamentally your thought process which is percolated to create more and more people who are a part of your organization. How do you raise funds? The first is assessing need for funds. Yes, more fund again would be fatal because it will lead to more interest costs. Assessing investments readiness. Yes, you raise fund and put them in business. If you are not able to do so, you'll be in a problem. It is the vision and future plans of the entrepreneur that needs to be translated in a reliable, passionate, and talented team effort, which can result in value add to the entire perspective. The fundraisers should outline very important areas that could help them move ahead. Investor targeting. Yes, right set of investor needs to be targeted who want the right interest, who are there to serve the organization and support the organization. And more importantly, there is due diligence by interested investors. So your all things need to be in place, your documentation, your statutory compliances all need to be there so that the due diligence is undertaken, and if it is a success, the funding is finalized and completed on mutually agreeable terms. Now, what are the types of funding available? It can be by way of equity capital. You see, in recent times, whatever IPOs are coming are oversubscribed at so many rates. Second is preference share capital, where ultimately you raise fund, which is ultimately transformed into share capital into equity by way of a preference. The third is business bank loans. You take business bank loans and ultimately use them for furtherance of your business. Debentures and ECBs. Debentures are important because the people who are a part of the organization, who have faith in the organization, give money. And external commercial borrowing is a loan or debt funding raised from a foreign entity. The rate of interest in, you can say, if it is in Japan, it is nearly zero, and in US also it is not more than 2 to 3%. Compared to India, it is a great idea to raise funds as ECBs. What is the relevance of fundraising in India amidst pandemic? Number one, it is very important because the businesses are starved of funds, and when it comes at a lower rate, that could add value and ensure that the entire organization moves towards the desired goals. The funding path that take corporates will vary. They'll go to different models and support large scale programs. But the clarity about their most effective funding model is very important. They need to have a continuous adaptation of the changing conditions that other organizations face as contributions are becoming more disciplined about their investing. So very, very important is the relevance of fundraising. So ladies and gentlemen, not taking much of your time, I have finished my presentation, and I would just want to tell you that ultimately your thought process your indulgence, and the way how you attract people who would like to be a participant in your fundraising would be the most important issue. So, not taking much of your time, I hand back the dais back to Dilpreet Singh for the address of Mr. Ankur Mittal. Over to Dilpreet.
Really, sir, those words were really enlightening. Thank you so much. Now, before moving forward to the special address by CA Ankur Mittal, I would like to brief you all with his wide range of experience that was so. CA Ankur Mittal, as we have already mentioned, is a co-founder and chief operating officer of Inflection Points Ventures, and he has an experience as a finance expert, having 20 plus years of global experience in Fortune 50 companies, startups, investing, managing and expanding TTS operation across Asia Pacific, including Middle East. He has advised Fortune 500 companies on cross-border M&A transactions across sectors like banking and financial services, consumer goods, retail, luxury, FIG, education, real estate, media, telecom, and healthcare and white goods. He also built emerging market long-only equity portfolio for Citigroup's US defined benefit plan, executed over 60 million of new investments commitments, focused on expanding Citigroup's footprint through acquisitions in the North America and EMEA regions. He also led multi-disciplinary team of 30 professionals, providing crucial financial perspective, cost productivity projects. He has also invested in 60 plus startups as well. So that was really motivating, sir. Now I would like to hand over to you. Please, I would like to mention that please illuminate us with your wisdom. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dilpreet. I hope my screen is visible.
Very much, very much. Please go ahead.
Great. So, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Nanda sir, for this opportunity. And very good, apt keynote, address you made on fundraising. These have been some, difficult times, but at the same time, opportunistic times for everybody concerned. And while you were talking about businesses and you were talking about debt funding, I am and how banks and can be your partners and everything. I'm going to focus on your one part, which is friend raising, and I'm going to talk about what Inflection Point Ventures, which is a angel platform. What we are doing is we are helping evaluate startups, and then people like you and I can collectively come together and invest in startups. Most of the time, this investment will be in form of a equity or equity-like instrument. Could be a compulsory convertible preference share or could be a compulsory convertible debt. So while going in as an investor, you know that if the startup succeeds, there will be a lot of success. But if the startup fails, you will not be able to get your money back. Although, as some of our lenders have seen, this has also been a reality to some of the largest corporate they have lent money to. So, I mean, that way we go here with our eyes wide open. Now, the question is, why is all of a sudden the whole world talking about startup investing? If you see what is happening is that the whole ecosystem is coming together. India is a mobile first country. We are a young country. We are a country which has a significant large percentage of their population under the age of 40 who are, where telephone connections cannot reach, cheap and reliable internet through networks like Airtel and Jio have reached. Now, not only the internet users have increased, but also what has increased is the digital transactions. The number of digital transactions have increased, and this is just in 2019, where the internet users increased from 46 million to 625 million, but the number of digital transactions increased from 50 million to 2 billion plus. What I can tell you is in the last 2 years, most of us who earlier were not part of this 2 billion have now become part of this, and therefore this 2 billion has become much higher. And part of the 625 million has become much higher because a lot of us have started online shopping for the first time. In my house, we never bought vegetables online, but because of COVID, now all of us are buying our groceries online and different things online. So this is a market which is exploding, and this is being rewarded by investors, not because they like to give money, but because they see an opportunity. And therefore, the VC dollar invested in 2019 was 17.1 billion. But if the numbers are to be believed, this number is already above $30 billion for the first 26 to $30 billion in the first 7-8 months of 2021. Now, why? Now, two things are happening. A, more VC investors are coming. And B, more people like you and I are now exploring startup investment as a viable investment alternative. And there is a reason for that. Let's first look at West. See, what you will see is, I'm looking at some of the largest names that you can be aware of. And if you will see that a large valuation was created in the private space for Apple, but a large valuation has also been created in the public space. But what has happened is, look at Facebook. Now, Facebook has been publicly listed since 2012. Those of you like me who invested in the IPO of Facebook today are smiling because yes, Facebook stock has done very well. But the returns it has generated for its investors largely is in the private space. So what is happening is, the trend that is changing is that more people are investing early on in the private space. More money is being made there, and by the time the company gets publicly listed, yes, they could have great returns. We all saw Zomato, and that will be my next slide, right? But the most money was made by people like Sanjeev Bikhchandani, who invested prior to Zomato being the publicly listed company today, but when it was a foodie bay, which was the initial avatar of Zomato, where they used to collect and put just the menus, and then the model evaluated and evolved. Right? So this is a tweet that Mr. Sanjeev Bikhchandani, CEO, founder of InfoEdge, put post the Zomato listing, where he just on a very broad basis calculated that based on the share price that Zomato went, look at his returns. 1267x. So if you would have put 1 lakh rupees, or even if you would have put 1 lakh rupees in Zomato when Mr. Sanjeev Bikhchandani had put, today that would have been worth, today it would have been worth 12 crore 67 lakhs. If you would have put just 1 lakh rupees. Now that kind of return generation, or maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe it's even more actually. It's about 120 crores that will get made in that process. So what I'm trying to say is that two things are happening. A, more people are looking at angel investment as a viable investment alternative, and there is a reason for that, and I will discuss that shortly. But there is also another reason. Zomato today, with its market cap, is among the top 7% of the listed Indian companies, leaving behind some large companies that you and I have grown up hearing about, like Tata Motors and so on and so forth. And the reason, the Hero Group and so on and so forth. And the reason for this all is that the potential that these companies have, of course, not all of them are profitable. Of course, there is a lot of exuberance in this stock. It is the first time that the retail investor is getting a chance to invest in a high-tech company. But what we are trying to do at IPV is making it more democratized. So you can invest as much in as little as 250,000 per startup. So you actually don't have to wait till the public listing happens to invest in the startups. But at the same time, there are risks. And therefore, collective investing is helpful, because when you invest collectively, then you can do two important things. One is that you can do a significant upfront due diligence. So we collectively will put our heads together. The founders come on the call. We all investors ask them questions. Then our team, for example, conducts due diligence, reaching out to SMEs. Now, some of you may have done a lot of detailed audits in specific sectors, and so therefore understand those sectors very well, the challenges of those sectors very well, and therefore you can be great subject matter experts in trying to understand some of the businesses on this space. Think about logistics, right? Logistics, so many logistics companies have become unicorns. Their valuation is more than 7,500 crores in the logistics space, because in India logistics is a big market, but it was very unorganized, very inefficient, and now efficiencies are coming in. Now some of you may have done, some of you may have understood the logistics cost P&L from inside out, and therefore you have a very unique perspective which could be very interesting to evaluate those startups. And therefore, once we do all that due diligence, we take a more informed decision. There is no guarantee of success, but by doing extensive due diligence, we eliminate the chances of failure. And then we pool in our capital, we do fundraising, and then we put it into the startup. The other reason why we are talking a lot more about startup investing these days from a fundraising point of view is because look at your other options. They're very little. Fixed deposits are hardly giving you any rent. Charanjit Singh Nandaji talked about low interest rate regime that is there all over the world. So India is no exception. PPFs, we all know there are challenges on both going in and going out. Equities are performing exceedingly well and should be part of the portfolio. Real estate, we all have struggled over the last few years where our projects have got stalled, our money has been blocked, and the appreciation is no longer there. And gold in India, typically we don't consider it as as an instrument, but more as an ornament. So therefore, there are very little options available. And still, equities are generating you 12 to 15% IRR. Yes, stock market is doing exceedingly well, but if you look at your mutual fund portfolio, that will be ranging in 12 to 15%. Whereas, if done right, angel investing, startup investing can generate 22, 23% plus IRR. So, from a fundraising point of view, for a startup, there is a pre-investment phase where we speak to the founders, understand the business plan. A lot of this thing Nanda sir also mentioned about, whether you're giving out a debt or investing in the company, that due diligence does not change. You spend a lot of time on the founders to understand them. You negotiate all the contracts, you agree on a valuation. Then you get into the actual term sheet, shareholder agreements, legal compliance issues, closing deals, share certificates. And then post-investment, you will want to continuously be involved in the review calls, offer mentorship, guidance, and then as and when it's the right time, you provide, you get an exit, hopefully many times over, and make significant wealth out of this asset class. Again, when you invest collectively, the advantage is that all these things can be done by, let's say, a platform like Inflection Point Ventures, ipventures.in. And you can, so we divide the responsibilities. Due diligence is done by one team, legal is done by another team, post-investment support is done by another team. And together they all help the startup to generate the kind of returns. Like I said, again, success can't be guaranteed, but overall, over a portfolio, you should be able to get a decent, good IRR, one of the best in the among the other asset classes. Focusing on the business, you look at things like product, business model, traction, financials. Nothing different to what Nanda sir said, that things that you have to be focused on. It's the same due diligence you do, but I can promise you, you do far little due diligence when you invest in equities. Your relationship manager comes, shows you 5 mutual funds, you just decide, you look at historical performance, or you look at the strategy and you decide and you put money, right? And you just trust the manager, the portfolio manager, to do all this due diligence that you see on the screen. When we invest in startups, when we do fundraising for startups, this we can do on our own. Now, what is the role that you get to play as professionals? The role you get to play as professionals is twofold. A, not only can you invest in the startups yourself, But B, more importantly, there will be a lot of your clients who will be interested, who must be asking you today. नंदा सर से भी पूछते होंगे लोग कि सर where should I put my money? I read Economic Times every day, Financial Times every day, Business World every day. I hear about these startups. I hear about these returns. Some of our investors got 80x return in 2 years from Bharat Pay. So you invest 5 lakh rupees, we got 4 crore back in 2 years, right? So you people read these kind of news and they say, how can we access this opportunity? And therefore, platforms which are fundraising platforms like Inflection Point Ventures, they kind of streamline these processes to serve the benefit of the professionals and for their clients. So startup investing, fundraising for startups is a very, very exciting time. I think our next speaker will be talking more about it. It's a very exciting area where you as professionals probably should look at, and a lot of these companies like Zomato will become very large companies tomorrow, and therefore very good to get involved in their growth journey as an investor, as a professional, as an advisor. So with that, I would like to conclude my session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ankur Mitra, sir. That was really something to learn and adapt in our I would say investment life. So thank you so much. Now, before moving forward to the address of our eminent speaker, C. Gaurav Arora, let's have a brief about his. Sorry? Yes. So, I was saying, let's have a brief about the rich experience C. Gaurav Arora has. So, as I already said, he is a member of ICAI. He is also a member of ICSI, and he is also a lawyer from Lloyd Law College. And I would like to mention that he is also pursuing LLM and CWA as well. Now, presently, he is working as a vice president and northern head of New Age clients and e-commerce at Kotak Mahindra Limited Bank. He is also responsible for developing new relationships for bank in the e-commerce space and managing an active portfolio for the unicorns and soon unicorns that have disrupted the market with innovative ideas. He also worked as an executive vice president corporate finance infrastructure banking at Yes Bank Limited from 2014 to 2019, where he was responsible for developing new relationship for the bank in infrastructure space. He has also worked for 9 years with leading infra development company GMR Infrastructure Limited and handled the project finance and treasury portfolio for airport sector of GMR Group. Along with airports, he has been a team of raising funds for energy, road, SEZ projects of GMR Group, and has also supported in financial closure of many of these projects as well. So with that, I would like to ask you to please apprise us on this topic based on your vast experience and knowledge. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dilpreet. It was really, so nice of you to give such a wonderful introduction. Sometimes we are no longer used to, have our complete introductions. But thank you so much for that, for the kind words. And I must compliment the entire team, Nandaji, you, Bharat, everyone, that, you have chosen a topic which is, I think, an evergreen topic, but it is so dynamic that with every new economic scenario, the meaning of this topic changes. The beautiful thing about this whole topic is that more you discuss about it, more you deliberate about it, more you learn about it, believe me, the new aspects emerge out and you can figure out that what else can be done. So no longer it's called financial management. It has gone to a level where people call it financial engineering. So you actually devise a new product out of the financial options available to you, so that you can fit it into the requirements of, what are the needs of the company, what are the requirements of the business, what are the requirements of the ecosystem, what are the requirements of the regulator who are going to, monitor it. So this is something which is very, very, important aspect of, fundraising. So, and I must again compliment for the fact that you got Ankur on one side who, who has been very, I would say, instrumental in, lining up investments with the startups. At the same time, I run hunting lines with the, debt category to invest in the startups, to give them the loan, to give them the, additional working capital fuel. So very, very, strategic thought of speakers you guys have chosen. But I think that's how, as a community of CAs, we come together and, help each other, knowing what exactly is going on in the market. That's the best part about it. So what I will do is I will simply jump on to what are the categories, what we should look at, what we should not look at, and my discussion and the theme of my discussion will be definitely a lot inspired by the new age companies, which we call it, because after COVID, I think we have all become used to the tech based ecosystem. So that is something which is will be the theme. But I will always keep my fundraising or my financing related discussions around a journal ecosystem also, because a lot of our CA friends will be in the companies which are still in the traditional businesses, maybe manufacturing or maybe trading or maybe something similar kind of a setup. So that will be really, really, a discussion around both the topics. That will be my theme. So is it okay if I use a mix of English and Hindi? That's fine, right?
Yeah, absolutely, sir. No,
Perfect.
not a problem at all.
अच्छी बात है, because I think more you get attached to the roots, उतनी better understanding आएगी financing की. Financing is the only thing which we learn from day one. जब वो घर से पॉकेट मनी मिलती थी उसको खर्च करने से लेकर आज बजट बनाने तक कंपनी का, इट्स ऑल अबाउट दैट मैनेजिंग ऑफ फंड्स with your wisdom. How do you do that? How do you want to work out around it so that it becomes a very, very meaningful kind of activity for the entire system. So what I will do is I have a small presentation also. I'll just put it so that we have can you see it, please? Is it visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Brilliant. So what I will do now is that I'll take you straight away to the fundraising aspects. But you have to realize one thing. आज से 20 साल पहले जो फाइनेंसिंग होती थी वो आज नहीं होती है, बट उसके बहुत सारे एडवांस वर्जन आ चुके हैं, उसके बहुत सारे वेरिएंट्स आ चुके हैं. तो यू हैव टू रियली अंडरस्टैंड, नंबर वन, आप किस टाइम सिनेरियो में ऑपरेट कर रहे हैं. नंबर टू, आप what exactly is something which you will need for your company's requirements. That is the second big thing which you have to see. And third, and that is an aspect which we largely ignore, that wherever you want to raise funds and whatever type of funds you want to raise, you have to be clear that applicable regulatory framework should give you a clear go ahead. तो चाहे वो आरबीआई है, अगर आप डेट रेज कर रहे हैं, अगर वो इक्विटी रेज कर रहे हैं तो सेबी है. तो आपको यू हैव टू, अगर आप ऑफशोर डेट रेज कर रहे हैं तो आप फेमा की गाइडलाइंस हैं, तो आपको एवरी गाइडलाइन हैज टू गिव यू अ गो अहेड टू लॉन्च योर ओवरऑल प्रोडक्ट ऑफ फंड रेजिंग, सो दैट यू कैन यू हैव टू बी कंप्लाइड, यू हैव टू बी in line with what is the regulatory framework for a product. And believe you me, every product has a different framework. That is the beauty of this whole exercise. So coming to the most important aspect now, starting, I think Nanda ji being our teacher, he has always made everybody's, or especially my life, easier. So he actually talked about financial management and a lot of stuff. So that gives me a straightforward head start to go to a level jahan pe we will simply, we'll come back to these slides to give you some insight, but we will start beautifully from here. this is where we will actually discuss that what kind of a product, what kind of a fundraising we will talk about. So when we start talking about fundraising, दो चीजें सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट आएंगी. बेसिक फंडामेंटल बिल्कुल सेम रहेगा, डिजाइन नया हो जाएगा. सो अब मैं आपको बताता हूँ हाउ डज इफ यू गो टू द मोबिलिटी. तो गाड़ी जो आज से 20 साल पहले बनती थी, 4 पहिए उसमें भी थे, 4 पहिए आज की गाड़ी में भी हैं, राइट? द सेम थिंग, इंजन मे बी ऑफ अ डिफरेंट पावर, उसमें भी था, इसमें भी है. बट आज जो गाड़ी है उसमें आपको टेक मिलेगा, उसमें आपको एआई मिलेगा, उसमें आपको ऐप से स्टार्ट होने वाली कार मिलेगी, उसमें आपको यू विल हैव लॉट ऑफ फीचर्स व्हिच आर रिलेटेड टू सेफ्टी, टेक्नोलॉजी एंड अदर फैक्टर्स. बट एक बेसिक रूल जो इंजीनियरिंग का उसके अंदर है वो आज भी है कि there has to be 4 wheels, there has to be an engine, there has to be a crankshaft. So that basic structure always remains. So what I am trying to say here is कि आपका बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर जो फंड रेजिंग का है वो लार्जली 3 हिस्सों में डिवाइड होता है, चाहे वो 20 साल पहले था या आज था. नंबर 1 is equity, number 2 is debt, and number 3 is hybrid. Now when we say what is equity, what is debt, and what is hybrid, I think this is a definition which we have been reading since beginning. Equity वो पैसा है जो आप शेयर होल्डर से लेते हैं और उसको इक्विटी शेयर होल्डिंग के फॉर्मेट में लगाते हैं. दैट मीन्स यू गिव अ पार्ट ऑफ योर कंपनी, अ शेयर ऑफ योर कंपनी टू द पर्सन हु इज गिविंग यू द मनी, विच इज द इक्विटी. और इक्विटी की एक सबसे बड़ी स्पेशलिटी होती है परपेचुअल. अब परपेचुअल जो इक्विटी होती है वो आपने इक्विटी डाली, अब या तो आप डिविडेंड दो या बायबैक करो. There are ways to take it back, but largely equity investor is there for the long term. He says, I have a skin in the game. I am there unless you are listed. If you are listed, then again you are a investor category. Because अब आप देखो एक इक्विटी में ही 4-5 वैरायटी मिल जाएगी आपको. पहले इक्विटी which is a standard perpetual equity kind of a thing. If you are listed, you can become a trading equity also. If you are listed in foreign, then there is another challenge. So for example, I'll tell you. We talk about the nature of the company first. So if you're a foreign company and you come and list here, you'll realize there are different guidelines. So I'll give you example. Company like Honeywell or the brand which we commonly use, Honeywell to chaliye automation mein, Bata for that matter. Bata is a foreign brand. It has come and listed in India. Now it has a guideline applicable to it of their home country as well as SEBI. Now you imagine a reverse kind of a setup. You are an Indian entity and you're going ahead and listed somewhere outside. What will that case be? आपको मैं example देता हूँ. टाटा की जो JLR आर्म है, Jaguar Land Rover, it's a Tata company, but at the end of the day, it's listed in London. More usable example. Make My Trip. आप ऐप यूज करते हैं Make My Trip. Make My Trip is listed in New York Stock Exchange. NYSE पे listed है. So what I'm saying is, इक्विटी का फॉर्मेट भी जो आप चूज करोगे, it will define what is the regulatory framework, what will be the cost, and what will be the modalities to give return on that. That is something which is the beauty of it. But and again, now you can come back and ask कि sir हम तो Indian entity हैं, why will we go back and list ourselves in US? Fair question. अब ये जो question है ना, चाहे वो डेट के लिए हो या इक्विटी के लिए हो, you have to remember this question comes, or the answer to this question comes as per the individual case. जिसकी जैसी बीमारी उसको वैसी दवाई. कुछ कॉमन पिल्स चल जाएंगी, पैरासिटामोल चल जाएगी, लेकिन यू हैव टू स्टिल डिसाइड द डोसेज ऑफ ईच प्रॉब्लम एज पर अ केस स्पेसिफिक रिक्वायरमेंट. तो आप ये देखोगे कि आपका ज्यादा बिजनेस कहां पे है, आप टैक्स सेविंग करना चाहते हो या नहीं करना चाहते, आप रेगुलेटरी फ्रेमवर्क के हिसाब से आपके इन्वेस्टर जो हैं, अब फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर आपके सारे इन्वेस्टर बाहर के हैं तो दे वुड लाइक कि इंडिया में क्यों लिस्ट करना है. इंडिया से पैसा निकालना वैसे ही सबसे मुश्किल है, इंडिया में पैसा लाना आसान है, बाहर ले जाना मुश्किल है. तो दे विल प्रेफर कि बाहर लिस्ट करते हैं. तो आपकी शेयर होल्डर की क्या प्रेफरेंस है, आपकी टैक्स की क्या स्ट्रैटेजी है, आप, एंड अगेन आई एम नॉट सेइंग कि देयर इज अ चोरी अबाउट इट, आई एम सेइंग इट्स अ स्ट्रैटेजी. हाउ डू यू बिल्ड अप योर स्ट्रैटेजीज फॉर द बॉटम लाइन? How do you build up your strategies for the return on the equity later? So all these things, अब आपके जो अब equity में again there is a second aspect. There is a primary issuance, there is a secondary issuance. आप अगर याद करें तो हर बार आता है कि एक ऑफर फॉर सेल होता है और एक इनिशियल पब्लिक ऑफर होता है, करेक्ट? तो अब आपका जो इनिशियल पब्लिक ऑफर है वो अगर छोटा है और ऑफर फॉर सेल बहुत बड़ा है ऑफर फॉर सेल में सारे एग्जिस्टिंग इन्वेस्टर बाहर बैठे हैं, और दे आर इवन इन इंडियन बट दे वांट अ फॉरेन करेंसी. Again a challenge. So what I'm trying to say, every requirement has to be assessed that what will be the best fit for you, and then only you will be able to decide कि आप किस तरीके से best and most efficient fund raise कर सकते हैं. And let me just tell you, fund raise is not just about the cost, it's about the methodology also. It's about कि आप किस तरीके का स्ट्रक्चर, क्योंकि ये स्ट्रक्चर परमानेंट होते हैं. परमानेंट से मेरा मतलब है इक्विटी तो परमानेंट ही हो गया. अगर आपने डेट लॉन्ग टर्म रेज कर लिया, मान लीजिए 15 साल का, तो यू आर स्टक विद दैट फॉर 15 इयर्स. तो यू हैव टू मेक श्योर कि आपका 15 साल का डेट ऐसा हो कि आप उसके साथ सर्वाइव कर सके. इट्स लाइक अ बैड मैरिज ऑल्सो. हाँ, मतलब डिवोर्सेज आर ऑलवेज पेनफुल. तो अगर डेट प्रीपे करने गए तो बैंड बच जाएगी. तो और लेट मी जस्ट टेल यू, तो अच्छा ये बड़े ना, इट्स लाइक bankers are like, I always tell bankers are very good friends when you borrow, and when you don't repay, they can actually remind you of all the devils on the planet. तो उनके पास हर वो तरीका होता है. एंड व्हेन आई से तरीका, इट्स ऑल लीगल, बिकॉज अब एक और इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट आपको यहां समझना पड़ेगा. चाहे आप इक्विटी रेज कर रहे हैं, उसके लिए आप आरएचपी फाइल कर रहे हैं, या आप डेट रेज कर रहे हैं, उसके लिए आप लोन डॉक्यूमेंट साइन कर रहे हैं, एवरी क्लॉज रिटन देयर has to be analyzed in a doomsday scenario. अगर कभी कुछ फटा तो मेरा ये डॉक्यूमेंट मुझे किस हद तक बचाएगा या किस हद तक मरवाएगा. This is the technical aspect which is expected from our CA friends, जो फाइनेंस कंट्रोलर बन के बैठेंगे या CFO बन के बैठेंगे या फंड रेजिंग करने बैठेंगे. एक ही एक्सपेक्टेशन है, सर आज तो आप रेज करा दोगे, 5 साल बाद कुछ फटा, कोविड हो गया, एक भी गाड़ी नहीं बिकी, एक भी होटल बुक नहीं हुआ, एक भी बिजनेस एक्टिविटी नहीं हुई, कोविड की थर्ड वेव आ गई, शटडाउन हो गया, उस टाइम पे डेट सर्विस नहीं हुआ, व्हाट विल हैपन. इस लास्ट 2 साल ने जो हमें सिखाया है फाइनेंसिंग में, बिलीव मी, इफ यू एनालाइज द इम्पैक्ट ऑन ऑल द बिजनेसेस, यू विल बी अमेज्ड कि ऐसा सिनेरियो भी हो सकता है. हम फोर्स मेजॉर पढ़ते थे कि भूकंप आएगा, बाढ़ आएगी, आग लग जाएगी, उसके लिए इंश्योरेंस ले लेते थे, एक्ट ऑफ गॉड के लिए इंश्योरेंस ले लेते थे. अरे कोविड तो सोचा ही नहीं था किसी ने कि पूरी कंट्री छोड़ो, पूरा वर्ल्ड बंद हो जाएगा, एक इंटरनेशनल फ्लाइट नहीं उड़ेगी, एक हॉलिडे डेस्टिनेशन नहीं खुला रहेगा, एक होटल बुक नहीं होगा, एवरीथिंग इज अंडर प्रॉपर लॉकडाउन फॉर 4 months. व्हाट विल यू डू? किसी ने जीरो का प्रोजेक्शन, वो मूवी याद है ना, वो बोलते थे कि पास होना तो सबने सिखाया, किसी ने ये बताया ही नहीं कि फेल हो गए तो क्या करोगे. जिस दिन आपका बिजनेस experiences a zero revenue scenario which was taught to us by COVID, आज से पहले किसी ने सोचा ही नहीं था ये, तो तब क्या होगा. और zero is not for your business, zero is for the economy. The beauty of this whole learning was कि आपने डेट छोड़ो, आप तो जहां पे जाओगे वहां जीरो है, तो what will you do? तो वो जो प्लानिंग है ना, वो that is something has to be done in a doomsday scenario. That is what you have to learn. उसके लिए आपको हर केस स्टडी पढ़ना पड़े, आपको 50 लोगों से बात करनी पड़े, आपको 50 लोगों का ओपिनियन लेना पड़े. बिलीव मी, एनी ओपिनियन इज द चीपेस्ट ओपिनियन व्हेन यू कंपेयर इट विद द कोलैटरल डैमेज व्हेन यू सी इट ऑन अ डूम्सडे. तो आप कोई भी डॉक्यूमेंट देखें, चाहे वो इक्विटी का हो, चाहे वो डेट का हो, चाहे वो हाइब्रिड का हो, you have to make sure that that document saves your skin on a doomsday scenario. So that is about equity. अब आते हैं डेट पे. अब डेट जो है ना, ये सबसे वो कहते हैं ना कि सबसे इंटरेस्टिंग चीज है. क्या है, डेट इक्विटी के मुकाबले रेज करना बहुत आसान है. डेफिनेटली देयर आर पीपल हु कम फॉरवर्ड, बैंक्स, एनबीएफसीज, फिनटेक्स, फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशंस, अनरेगुलेटेड मनी लेंडर्स. तो कोई भी आके पैसा दे देगा बेस्ड ऑन अगर आपके पास मेरिट है और अगर आप कैलिबर रखते हैं उस डेट को पे करने का, आपका बिजनेस वो पोटेंशियल रखता है उस डेट को पे करने का. तो माय पॉइंट हियर इज, बट डेट कम्स विद जीरो टॉलरेंस. व्हेन आई से जीरो टॉलरेंस, इसका क्या मतलब है, मैं आपको इंडियन सिनेरियो में समझाता हूँ. जीरो टॉलरेंस,
Gaurav sir, just a second. Actually, we have an audience which actually do not understand Hindi, so they are asking if we can go in English as well.
No problem. I apologize. I have asked earlier, but I think that's all right. Idea is that when you get to your, own language, you reach to many people by heart. But no problem. I think I understand. So what I'm saying is, when we are talking about debt, debt is how debt is a zero tolerance instrument. Please understand that. It's zero tolerance from one perspective. Equity may you have headrooms. Equity can give you some leverages. Shareholder may not come back and ask for a dividend year on year. But bank or a financial institution or a debt, they are very clear. You have to service the debt on 30th of each month, means you have to 30th, you have to furnish the debt. You have to pay the interest. Now, what happens if you don't pay? We all have heard of CIBIL scores. We have heard all of us. We have heard of our individual level CIBIL scores at the company level. What happens is if you don't pay on 30th day, you become special mention account 0, SMA 0. If you don't pay it till 30th day, you become SMA 1. If you don't pay till 60th day, you become SMA 2. And when you don't pay it till 90th day, you become NPA. Rules are very clear. Now you don't have a headroom. Up 3 months or 3 months, suppose there were COVID, there was zero revenue. Can you go back to your lender? Yes, you can go back to your lender. Can you restructure your debt? Yes, you can restructure your debt. How many times you can restructure? One time. If you can do it one time, you have to be very judicious about it, that how you will restructure. So what I'm trying to tell you here is, but can government authorities will come back and help you? Yes. There are loan schemes which were given, extended credit guarantee linked schemes, ECGLS schemes which were given by the government, when government guaranteed to all the SMEs and other players that, okay, you borrow it and we will guarantee your debt. You don't need to give additional collateral. So, you have to be aware of it, what you can get your client. If the COVID has happened, it does not mean that banks have pulled the plug. Government came forward, they gave you an option of ECGLS. You borrow ECGLS and use it in your business. So what I'm trying to say here is, please understand that, which is my submission here is, if you keep your eyes and ear open, there is always some or the other eco support system which will come to your rescue, even if debt has a zero tolerance. I agree, debt has a zero tolerance, but debt can be very easily serviced if you plan your financials in a better way. Number one. Number two, debt has one more beauty which we have to understand. Debt comes at a very economical cost. When I say economical, what does it mean? Your equity always comes into the early 20s or late 20s. Debt in the current scenario can range as low as 3% and as high as, if you are borrowing for real estate, 24, 25, 20, 30%. So it depends what is your nature of business, what kind of a debt you are borrowing, what are the additional frills attached to it, and what kind of pricing you can borrow. It depends on the market. So if you see the classifications there, we will go to the classifications and we will discuss that how these classifications will determine what kind of a financial instrument will be impacted by the requirement of business. I'll tell you going forward. Now, before we jump onto it, let's discuss what is a hybrid. Now, the hybrid is, as we call it, hybrid is something which is having few features of equity, few features of debt. For example, the most commonly used example is, compulsory convertible debentures, CDs. Debenture comes in a debt instrument, but if it is compulsory convertible, it's hybrid. So what I'm saying is that, this is something which you have to really, really understand what kind of a product it is and what kind of a category it will fall. So products, first three criteria remain the same. That old age car system, 4 wheels are there, 3 categories are there, equity, debt, hybrid. Now comes the classification, which is very important. And believe you me, you have to categorize each product under each classification. So technically 3 into 3, 3 into 2, 3 into 2. So those many variants. And then you can go for unlimited permutations. You can raise a short-term debt which is secured on an onshore bank. Or you can raise a short-term debt which is unsecured through an offshore lender. Keep raising what kind of a permutations you can make. But again, I say, every instrument which will be devised out of this combination will be surely having its own features, its own requirements, which you have to assess, adhere to, and honor. So let's start with the time frame. What is a short term? Short term is like typically defined for 12 months. A working capital cycle, आपका operating cycle. What is an operating cycle? In how much time you get your money from your debtors, in how much time you have to pay to your creditors. If there is a gap between the two, it's called your working capital requirement. There are set formulas, maximum permissible bank finance, and other criteria, and you devise your short-term funding requirement, largely the working capital. Then comes medium term. Medium term is which is somewhere between 1 to 3 years. Then long term is beyond 3 years, 3 to 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. So if you're setting up a solar park, or you're setting up a road project, or you're setting up an airport, loan could be as long as 20 years. Now I have a question. Can there be a perpetual loan? I would tell you, and I encourage you, please go back after this session, Google it. Reliance has issued perpetual bonds. What is a perpetual bond? That perpetual bond has an interest rate of 8%, and investors keep changing hand. It never gets matured. Only one company in the country has issued it, which is Reliance. Such an interesting structure. Imagine there were subscribers to it. Those who said, okay, we are happy to get 8% year on year. We'll keep trading it amongst us, but you don't need to ever repay it. Phenomenal. Go back and read. If that can be a structure, anything can be structured. So debt became perpetual. Now, let's talk about a second scenario, which is secured and unsecured. Secured is, when you offer some collateral against the borrowings. Can you give security against equity? Yes, you can. How can you give that? See, those are all side arrangements. But what I'm saying is, generally equity is unsecured because you are buying a share of the company. But if you do a structure, it becomes a hybrid. So again, whatever permutation you will use, it will decide what is the structure you are getting into and what are the nuances of it. Second thing, what if it is unsecured? Unsecured means you are not giving any collateral, any guarantee, any security available for the borrowing you're doing. Now, by design, you get into an example. For example, you are borrowing a home loan or a loan against property. Your rate of interest will be what? 6%, 7%, 8%, single digit. Now you borrow on your credit card, which is unsecured. What is the rate? Or you borrow a personal loan, what is the rate? 18%, 24%, right? So that is the beauty of security. If you don't give security, risk is high. If the risk is high, return is high. If the return is high, you will be charged high. So you can say, I'll not give any security. I'm fine. Fine, no problem. Nobody will ask. But at that point of time, the pricing of the debt will be so high that you'll be in trouble because your business has to survive also. So you have to balance out the costs. That is again a concept called weighted average cost of capital. So X pricing of equity, Y pricing of debt, and overall pricing as Z, which is weighted average cost of capital. Then let's go to another scenario, which is territory. Onshore and offshore. What is onshore? If you raise it, so we are Indian companies, right? We have our balance sheets denominated in INR. We have our bank accounts denominated in INR. Unless you are an exporter and you open an EFC account or a diamond dollar account or whatever. Generally, we can't open unless there is a specific status of NRI or whatever. We can't open a dollar account, right? For a company, you cannot open it unless you have a export related feature in your business. So what I'm saying is, if everything is onshore and it's denominated in INR and you raise the debt there, it's called onshore borrowing. And if you raise it other than INR, it's called offshore. Other than offshore could be anything. GBP, USD, Euro, Pound, even Yen or Chinese Yuan. It depends which country if you are trading, if you are importing machinery. So all this is something, which will make you, what you call that as a engineer of what your requirements are. So whatever your requirements are, you make the product accordingly and you live with it. Now, what is an important thing here is you have to understand one more thing. There are further categorization. For example, I go to short term. Okay, you have working capital requirements. Go back few years, आपने working capital, if you need, you would have heard only 2-3 things: cash credit, overdraft, working capital demand loan, short-term loan. But are they the only products? No. There could be non-fund and fund-based requirements. What are the fund-based requirements? When you deal with actual cash, you get a disbursement, you get actual money in your bank account. It's your fund-based lending. Then comes non-fund based. If you open bank guarantee, suppose you are a contractor and for your performances, you have to give bank guarantee to your concessionaire. What will happen? That bank guarantee is taken as non-fund based. You have opened an LC for import, it's non-fund based. You have taken buyer's credit. So what I'm saying is, what I'm trying to tell you around this is, please understand, there'll be a nature of facility that you're taking actual money or you're just taking a bank comfort. LCs, BGs are bank comfort, bank to bank comfort. Actual money is your cash credit, loan disbursements, and all that sort of stuff. So this is something which will define what is the cost. So if there is an actual fund, the cost will be high. If there is just a non-fund based disbursement, cost will be low. So can you, rather than giving someone advance, can you just give them a bank guarantee? Wonderful idea, because you can minimize your cost. Bank guarantee comes at 2% per annum. Actual money will come at 12%. So you make a delta of 10% by negotiating your work contract in a better way. Sir, I'll not give you a earnest deposit. I'll just give you a bank guarantee. I'll not give you an advance. I'll give you a bank guarantee. So that is where, the role of a financial manager, the role of a fundraiser starts exactly from a point where the contractual obligation begin for the company, so that you can plan it there. For example, somebody has finalized the contract and comes to you, sir, paise arrange kar do. You please arrange the money. What will happen? You have no choice. You have to arrange the advance in the form of actual fund-based facility. That means you will borrow at a higher cost. And if you borrow at a higher cost, your weighted average cost goes for a toss. So what I'm trying to say here is that every combination has to be examined from the stage one, so that you can make sense around it. Number two, let's go to another thing. Longer the loan, higher the price. Shorter the loan, less the price. Security we discussed. Now onshore, offshore, let's discuss. If you raise in India, what are your risks? No risk. Only you have borrowed in INR, you have paid in INR. Now imagine you have borrowed in USD. Okay, you borrowed a 2-year loan in USD. That point of time, you said, I am borrowing $100 million. Absolutely fine. You wanted to set up a plan. You borrowed $100 million. $100 million 2 years back, rupee rate was 60. So you got 600 crores in your bank account. Your rate of interest was 4%. Absolutely brilliant. So you had to pay after 1 year how much? 600 crores plus 4%, which is 24 crores extra. That means you have to pay only 624 crores. Fair enough, sir. We can go for it. You have taken wonderful decision, because obviously you have borrowed it at at a very, very cheaper price. But what happens after 1 year? The rupee cost becomes 70. INR USD conversion rate becomes 70. And now you have to pay 724 crores. So just for borrowing in USD, you had to bear the exchange rate fluctuation of 100 crores. And there was no fault of yours. That's an economic factor. So you will say, sir, no problem. We know, we are very, profound CAs. We know how to do it. We will hedge it. We will buy currency forwards. We will buy options, futures, blah, blah, blah. Now option future comes at a cost of 6%. Average cost. You borrowed at 4. You hedged it at another 6%. Overall cost is 10%. That you could have borrowed in India at 9.5. So was the decision right? And for that, you would have taken RBI approvals, you have filed certain forms, FIRC file hoga, then you would have filed form ECB for loan registration number, you would have filed ECB2 for per on a monthly basis as a monthly return. Was it worth it? No. So what I'm trying to say here is every proposal, has to be examined from end to end, the date of borrowing to date of repayment, and in line with internal factors, external factors, and above all, what are the nature of businesses? What could be the business cycles? Now, I'll tell you another important thing about it. Suppose you, and this is a very live example, right? I have dealt in it. So I'll give you an example. When I was in GMR, we bidded for a project called Maldives Airport. Now, Maldives is an Islamic country, right? Islamic country, is having a very unique kind of a financial structure, which is called Sukuk or a Sharia financing. What is the Sharia financing? Sharia financing is which is approved by the laws of Islam. That means you can't take interest because they don't allow to take you interest. All right. How do you do that? You fix the rate and you give them the equity, but you retire the equity at the fixed rate. Brilliant. So we went ahead. It was a dollar borrowing. We explored it. Now everybody was very happy because if you borrow it from a foreign lender, foreign lenders will give you at say 4%. A Sharia lender or a Sukuk lender who is again an Islamic bank or a petrol fund or a oil-based fund based out of Middle East, again led by the Islamic governments, they were very happy to fund it at 2.5-3%. The challenge was, now they say that as per Islam, you cannot sell liquor in the entity because that is also not allowed. We never thought about it. The deal, when it was about to happen, they said, oh, stop. This is an airport. Here you sell liquor on the duty-free shop. So if you sell liquor, that is not approved by Islam. What will you do? So that is the beauty of financing. Now you have to separate that duty-free shop in a separate legal entity out of the airport. Airport entity was only for this. So what I'm trying to tell you here is that every unique problem, every unique project, every unique financing requirement will force you to think out of the box and design a product which will help you how you can figure it out, how you can make it more appealable, how you can make it more bankable, more sustainable kind of a financing. Agree? Now I'll tell you another example. See, I don't care about the presentation. I want you to learn the concept and understand how things need to be assessed. So don't worry about it even if we are on the one slide. If we have discussed this one slide and understood the rationale of it, believe me, we have arrived. So, important thing which you have to, again, further understand. For example, it's a working capital. Now, working capital has certain scenarios. What it means, I'll tell you. For example, you are borrowing in overdraft or a cash credit format, right? Now you say, I don't want to, borrow it at this kind of a working capital because this is not making sense to me. Because everybody comes, assesses me. I don't have that kind of a, strength left. I have given my collateral. I have given my business receivables. Everything is given. Why should I go for it further? That is what the problem is. So, what you do is, you go and think how you can further raise working capital without giving more collateral. What happens is there are further, each activity of business can give you an opportunity to fund. Suppose you are a manufacturing entity. So you will be having typically 3 or 4 processes. First, you will procure the raw material, right? So these people are what kind of a people? These are the guys who are supplying you raw material, and they allow you, say, a credit period of 30 days. Then you do the processing, and that processing, post that when the finished goods are made, you sell it to, say, a particular customer, and that customer pays you money, say, in 90 days. So your working capital cycle is of roughly 60 days, 90 minus 30. 60 days you have to arrange capital for your own. You have already borrowed, you don't have funds. Now you think, can you split the operating cycle? Yes, you can. So if you are purchasing, what can you do? You can do purchase invoice financing. You go back and talk to your supplier. Okay, rather than 30 days, I will pay you upfront on day one. You give me 2% cash discount. Give you 2% cash discount, you borrow at 12%, which means 1% per month. You simply make an arbitrage. Or if you don't have that headroom, you go back to the bank and say, sir, my customer is Reliance, my customer is say Tata, my customer is say Maruti. They are anyhow going to pay me if I have raised the bill and they have accepted the bill. You just advance me the payment rather than 90 days. When I raise the invoice and they accept the invoice, in that 10 days time, you please pay me. After 90th day, they are anyhow going to pay you. Why do you need security? You are taking a call on that customer. So what I'm trying to tell you by giving you these examples that every activity of business can give you some or the other opportunity to manage your funds better, to manage your fundraising better. So I'll tell you another example. There are corporates where electricity bill is too high, 2 crore rupees a month, suppose a big plant. Take a corporate credit card and pay the electricity bill out of that corporate credit card. You get a credit of 60 days or 45 days. Additional 2 crore rupees for 45 days will make a phenomenal sense. Now you will say, sir, corporate credit card, there will be a fixed deposit requirement. All right, if it is 50%, you at least get 1%, 1 crore rupees for 45 days. So every single rupee matters. You'll say bank does not give. You tell the bank, I am doing 20 crore working capital with you. Why can't you give me a corporate card? Start with 50%, start with 60%, 70%. So whatever additional capital you can infuse by financial engineering, that is what will define your caliber. That is what will define your potential to understand the business and arranging the funds from there. So that is what I would always encourage that you should do. Second thing, which is, out of this, which you have to realize, nowadays, there are, different formats which are coming, which you have to realize that they are not just the traditional borrowings. They are, a different kind of a borrowings. What are those? For example, today, companies like, which are into the new age space, they're even going and doing a special kind of a fundraising, which is called SPAC. What is a SPAC? It's called Special Purpose Acquisition Company. Go back and read about it. What it happens is, if you are a guy who have identified the opportunities, they will simply, you go list in a foreign country, investors will give you money, and they'll say, ki aapne, whatever these 10 opportunities you have identified, go ahead and acquire these companies. So that one entity which gets listed, it's a special purpose vehicle which is listed and has arranged funds to acquire the identified targets, and you get the return out of it. What I'm trying to say here is, please understand and appreciate that there are multiple avenues which can help you to raise the funds, and accordingly you can, design your overall structure, whether it's short term, long term, medium term, it's secured, unsecured. Can it be partially secured? Yes, it can be partially secured. जरूरी नहीं है कि for a 10 crores borrowing you have to give 10 crores security. You can give less security also. So what I'm trying to say is that is on your negotiation and designing of the financial package for your company. Can you raise it onshore? Yes, you can raise it onshore. Can you raise it offshore? Definitely yes, you can do that. But be cognizant of exchange rate risk, be cognizant of regulatory requirement, be cognizant of what would be the compliance requirement, what will be the submission requirements, and all that. Also, there are costs for everything. So you saw Zomato raise some money on the IPO. Everybody is very bullish about it. Wow, what a fundraise! What a brilliant opening by a internet company in India. I encourage you, please go back and check in Google, and now you can find it on their DRHP also, or on their RHP also, how much money they have paid to the investment bankers for arranging this fund. What are the cost to issues? You will realize it's phenomenal cost which comes for this. Similarly, when you arrange the debt, you pay to debt capital managers, you pay to banks as a processing fees. So there comes the concept of what is the total effective cost. That means what is your all-in cost? You pay something upfront, you pay something over a period of time. So what will be your overall effective cost? That is something you have to calculate for a better understanding of your financial product or for the fundraising. Second, SEBI-like entities are very, influenced by the economic scenario. There could be a scene when you go to SEBI and you file the RHP, DRHP for 10 times and they will reject. And today's scenario, anybody goes, SEBI gives approval, go ahead, bring your IPO. Happens. You want to borrow ECB, you go to RBI for approval, they can reject it. If it is under automatic route or approval route, you have to go file the application. They have a sole discretion to reject it. But if you borrow in India, it's between you and a bank as a contractual arrangement. So please understand what I'm trying to say here is that each and every aspect has to be looked into from an independent perspective, from a point of view where you have to realize that whether it makes sense from an overall financial engineering perspective or not. That is what is very important, right? So what we will do is we'll just quickly go back to the previous slides to give you an idea. However, Nandaji has covered it very beautifully, but I would still recommend that we just go back and read it once so that we have an idea about it. So financial management, what he said was absolutely perfect. But one thing I want to add there is, what is the scope of financial management? That is something which you have to always remember. Number one, how much you need. Number two, how you need. Number three, why you need. And what all you have to do to get those funds. So how much you need is you define the quantum. When you say define the quantum, it even needs at what stage you need money. Suppose your requirement, I'll give you an example. For example, you are, say, a company called maybe Haldiram. Okay? You make sweets, effective sales, no problem. People like your brand, no issues. But whatever your raw material requirement will be during, say, Feb, March, April, May, June, July, will be far lesser than what it will be in the festive season of Diwali and Navratri or Dashera or whatever festive season we have. You need more working capital at that point of time. So rather than tying up for a 100 crore line in one go and paying fee over that, break it into two parts. Take 50 crore regular line and 50 crore seasonal line. That is something is called the engineering. Now, for example, I'll give you another example. Suppose you are a company which is, selling on e-commerce. Your requirement on a regular day will be different than when there is an Amazon Prime sale or a Big Billion sale. So you have to arrange temporary funds. Now, that is not seasonal. That's a event-based thing, right? So if it is an event-based thing, you have to arrange something which is a temporary working capital. Otherwise, you need a permanent working capital, which is to make you run through your normal business forever, for the whole year. That is what is called quantum of funds. Assess what is the total requirement and what type of a requirement it is. That is something which you have to decide. Now, availing best capital available terms. So are you giving too much equity share to raise the equity? Or you are adhering to very strict debt covenants. So for example, a banker comes to you, you cannot raise debt equity beyond 2:1. Apne 100 crores ka equity you have put in the business, you can't raise more than 200 crores. But your business is like where you need maybe 300, 350 crores. And your DSCR, EBITDA, everything is supportive. But because you have agreed a covenant which is 2:1, it can be a problem for you. Okay? Similarly, another thing if you have to see, every time you give projections to the bank, right? You can't give too aggressive, you can't give too pessimistic because your lines are dependent on it. So you have to be very, very careful that what kind of a terms you will agree and how many terms you will agree to basically minimize your operational, because then you have to submit the compliance of it also. Every month you submit a MIS, sir, this is what you needed on month basis. If you agree more terms there, you're gonna pay for it. So my submission here is, it's not just the quantity, it's the terms also which will matter. Now, what is the utilization? That is again very important. So for example, which I gave you in the beginning, you have to give somebody advance. Can you give bank guarantee against it? Makes sense. Another thing, if you are an exporter or if you are an importer, can you do foreign currency borrowing because you'll have a natural hedge? What is a natural hedge? If you have some earnings in other than INR and you borrow in the same currency, you will definitely be hedged, because if you have to pay the interest, say at $100 at 76, you'll also get some receipt at maybe 75.5 or 75.75 or 75.8. So your risk is very, very low. If you can time it and make it a natural hedge, suppose today you are receiving money, tomorrow you have to pay interest. There is zero risk involved actually, practically. Can you do that? Yes. Can you borrow? If you are an exporter, rather than taking working capital, can you take a packing credit or a pre-shipment credit? Yes, you can. If you're an importer, can you take a buyer's credit? Yes, you can. So you should know the entire product range available. Uske liye, if you have to go sit with a banker, sit with a advisor, sit with a teacher, sit with a friend, or go through the basic information available, across the banks or RBI website. Just get a hang of it, because once you get a hang of it, then you can't fail. This is what is very important. Right? Third or fourth, which is the last thing, which I told you in the beginning also, regulatory framework. Equity means SEBI. Offshore borrowing means RBI. Offshore borrowing means FEMA guidelines. So are you open to, or do you know all these guidelines applicability? Number one. Number two, are you open to comply with it? So please be extra careful about what you are going to agree on your overall financial structure, because it's like the same. You have to live with this for the number of years you sign the paper. And if you get divorced or you part your ways, it's very painful. It comes with a cost. It never comes free. Never ever comes free. Right? So this is about the slide. We were talking about here. So everything is planned, right? If you are an individual, your personal loans, house loan, car loan, everything is planned. Then your salaries, which you take, or a business income, or the other incomes, you plan accordingly. If you're a business, again, you plan it, to an extent with the help of tools like budgeting. At individual level, you check your CIBIL scores, that how much you can borrow. In business, you check how much what is your credit rating. So again, important thing. Suppose you want to tell people that you are eligible borrower. How will you tell? With the help of your CIBIL score, you will go and say, sir, I am 800 plus. Please give me personal loan. They'll jump onto it and give it to you. Now you're a corporate. How will you tell? You will have a credit rating. Now, is credit rating an easy exercise? Believe me, no. You have to go through many rounds of discussions. Then they give you a rating based on multiple documents, multiple data points. But if you get, say, a A rating, banks will jump onto the queue. Yes. And if you read the Basel guidelines, Basel II currently applicable talks about even, different type of capital provisioning for a different rating. If you are AAA, I have to do minimum capital provisioning. If you are BBB or default, I have to do 100% capital, or sub-investment grade, I have to do 100% capital provisioning. That means my cost of capital is high and I'll charge you more. But if you're AAA or if you're AA, I'll charge you very less. So your certification from the others will simply decide whether you can borrow or not. Now does government plan for it? Yes. State level taxes are different, central level taxes are different, their expenditures are different. Forget that. Sovereign ratings are there. India has a credit rating. That is what defines what is the borrowing of India. So today, will you the inter-government borrowing programs are there. Governments borrow from World Bank, they borrow from each other. There are GSECs which are issued. So today, will any government lend to Afghanistan government? What will be their rating? Junk. What will be India's rating? Investment grade. So what I'm trying to tell you here is everybody gets a certification of their behavioral and credit strength based on which their future or their future abilities to borrow are decided. So you have to pay an equal attention to it. If you're a corporate, please make sure that you are rated from a good rating agency and you get a good rating. So how do you take ratings? What are the relevance of it? I'm sure I would request, CMA and the chapters to arrange that kind of a session separately so that you should know about that also. So coming to this, one more thing which has, now come into a very prominent limelight, which is how do you pitch corporate governance and financial management? So multiple parties are involved, bankers are there, shareholders are there, distribution agencies are there, multiple stakeholders are there. Can you maintain that kind of and above all, government and regulatory authorities are there. So can you maintain a harmony amongst all of them? That is a big question. You have to really, really decide. So if you can devise a structure which eliminates most of the 100% conflict removal, sometimes it's not possible. But can you remove major conflicts? If you can do that, and all the stakeholders which are involved, if they're happy about that structure, nothing like that. You have to aspire for a procedure, you have to aspire for a product, you have to aspire for a control which gives no conflict or the minimum conflict or the bearable conflict between all the stakeholders. That's how it is. That's how you have to follow. So this is something which you have to really work upon in the current scenario about the corporate governance and the overall, requirements in the financial management. So we come back to our first slide where we started, and that is something which is the gist of the overall requirement. We move on to the next. This will tell you that when you raise financing, what all you have to go through. And if you are able to get a grip on all this, then you are sorted. What does it mean? One, evaluation. Evaluation is not just the analytics. It is also the software evaluation. What are the experience of promoters? What are the markets you're going to operate? Whether this contract or this project will make sense or not. So suppose I'll give you an example. Today, the latest example is Ola Electric. Out of the blue, within 6 months, they opened a very big factory and rolled out first electric scooter out of that. Is electric the future? Yes. Will it make sense? You have to see. So what I'm trying to say here is that everything which happens around us goes through these stages. You have to really learn and understand that whether this stage was there at that point of time and how did it pass through that stage. That is where. So it's all about the business first of all. What will be the market segment? Are people preferring mobility? Two-wheeler is the largest segment. Car segment is still smaller. So can you choose that? Yes, we can choose that. So that is something which we are, talking about. Second, what are the competitions in this? SWOT analysis, if you remember, it actually goes there. Finally, it goes there. What is the economy? What are the support from the government? Is government going to subsidize? Is government going to give you a tax holiday? Is government going to give you any kind of benefits for getting into this particular area where you can take advantage of the production cycle or the distribution cycle or the subsidies or the final price or the taxes? Then post that also you do certain analysis, which is what are the financial and regulatory frameworks. When I say regulatory framework, what does it mean? It means, suppose you are, an entity which could be under the tax radars. The tax authorities may put a retrospective tax on you and can make you unhappy. Is there a possibility on your sector? You have to analyze it. What are the financial regulators there? Are you governed by SEBI? Are you governed by RBI? Are you governed by any other regulator? in the country. That is something which you have to see. Number two, or number three for that matter, what are the business SWOT analysis? What are the business strengths? What are the technical strengths? Is the technology patented or it's not patented? Is there any threat to the technology? For example, I'll give you a basic thing. Before this, the tech which used to be, it was a standard tech. Suddenly AI came into the picture. And now everything is around AI. So people who were using the old school languages, they are now stuck. What to do with the AI? So that is something which is the future. You have to be. Now the problem is it upgradable? Yes, it is upgradable. But is your manpower upgradable? That is what you have to think. Because sometimes specialized resources also make a lot of sense whether you invest in that or not. I'll give you another example. You open a hospital project, you get good surgeons, then suddenly some special machines comes up, robotic surgeries is in the trend. Are your doctors who are your specialized resources adaptable to that kind of a change? Can they undergo a training again? Forget anyone else. Our own profession is a symbol where we unlearn and relearn everything. Remember Companies Act? We read 1956, suddenly 2013 aaya. Remember taxes? We used to read direct taxes, indirect taxes, suddenly GST came. What I'm trying to tell you is, please understand, is there a flexibility in the business on the technical and other aspects? That is what you have to really understand. And what kind of investments will be needed to upgrade yourself with the time is another cost which you have to assess in the overall financing package. Then can there be legal challenges? Can there be stays? Can there be PILs? Can there be other challenges? So what I'm trying to tell you is, which is again, a very, very important thing, is that, what all could be, the possibilities where you will, be forced or to incur a cost which should go actually in the package which you will design for the your financial structure. Then environmental. Are there any environmental threats? Are you supposed to do any kind of environmental approvals? All that is something which you have to do. And ultimately, what comfort promoter brings, what comfort, what is their experience, what is the equity they're putting, what are their skin in the game. So all that will help you to design a project which will, take you to the next level, right? So we come to this. So we have discussed this. What is the debt, equity, and a hybrid structure? What are onshore, offshore? That is something which is we have to, we have discussed in detail in the previous slide. So I'll just move on with this. Now, another important thing which comes is whether your financing is bankable or not. When I say bankable, you have to understand what exactly it means. Number one, is it viable or not? Viable means, will it generate the return to service the debt or not? How do you measure that? There are ratios for it. What is the EBITDA level you will generate? What are the EBITDA margins you will do? What will be the PBT? What will be the PAT? What will be the DSCR? Can you maintain debt service reserve accounts? Do you have enough cash flows? Will you service a EMI or will you service a bullet? Will you service a quarterly repayment or you will service a half yearly repayment? So all that is something which has to be assessed based on your cash flow analysis, based on your projections, based on your financial plan which you will make. So, but is it not only about the debt? Shareholders also need their return, either in the form of dividend or buyback or any other formats. So it should service debt, it should service equity, and it should help the company. What is helping the company? Helping the company is that it should give it enough retained earnings or enough war chest so that in the doomsday scenario or in a blackout scenario, company is able to sail through with its own funds. It should not go back to the shareholders. It should not go back to the the debtors or the lenders that please readjust us. That means your financial plan should accommodate the costs requirements to a level where you not only service the debt properly, you don't only generate the return for the shareholders, but at the same time create a decent war chest. So if there's a COVID-like scenario again and something goes for a lockdown or something goes for a no revenue generation blackout, at that point of time, you should be able to survive with the company's fixed expenditures. And how do you do that? You optimize it to the available resources. You actually, and at the end of the day, be able to add value to not only just the company or the relevant stakeholders, but also the society as a whole. That is what a perfect financial plan is. Because CSR is mandatory, a lot of other stuff has to be done. So, do you spend enough money? Where you're funding a project? That is something. So I'll tell you one example which will help you to understand this. If you go to Zomato app, there on the home page, on the home screen, they even talk about sustainable delivery, environment friendly deliveries, that they are by next 2 years they are going to be 100% green deliveries. That means there is a time or there will be a requirement where they have to buy a lot of green bikes or electric bikes or non-polluting vehicles, or they have to contribute. They have to buy carbon credits. Have they set up war chest for it? They have set up a fund for this. This is where the opportunity of financing or opportunity of extending a requirement of a financial structure comes in. So that is where you have to keep your eyes and ears open, that how you can decide that particular thing, right? Now, this is again conventional and non-conventional, which we were talking about. I think this is something which we can, skip. But the most important thing here is today, which you have to really realize that whether it makes sense or not. It is the new format of funding. One, I gave you an example about SPAC, Special Purpose Acquisition Company, which is listed in foreign, and based on the target investment companies, it is given or raises funds to invest further. So can that kind of a structure is there? Or there are, for example, oil-based funds. What happens is there is an OPEC organization of petroleum exporting countries. They sell oil at a premium and they generate huge reserves. So those are called oil-based funds. So for example, Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, OPEC funds are ABAR or ADIC, ADIA. So all these funds are there, and can these funds be approached? Now the problem which comes is that these funds are the funds which has a minimum ticket size of $100 million or $200 million, because they don't invest smaller tickets. Can you address a bigger project and reach out to them? Part of your plan. Similarly, there are big pension funds, and whatever terms I'm using, I encourage you, all of you, please go back and search about all this. Be aware of what is happening in the world, because we are no longer talking about a domestic scenario. What we are talking about today, and which is very, very important, is a global scenario. More global you go, believe me, it will be very, very beneficial for you. Very, very beneficial, because you get to know more and more things around it. Another thing, similarly, there are pension funds. Canada is flooded with a lot of pension funds, CDPQ, CPPIB, OTP. Can you reach them? Make a project and reach out to them. Who stops you? Similarly, there are hedge funds, venture capital funds. There are, multiple other arrangements which you can do. That is something which you have to, decide what kind of a structure you can make. So we talked about working capital, which was a shorter working capital requirement. See, you have to understand working capital is the most common requirement, in your fundraising activity, because that's your day-to-day operations. If you don't tie up day-to-day operations, your business or the blood for the business, which is money, if it will not be there, you will not be able to survive. The most important thing in a fundraising activity is tying up your working capital requirement first. So that come what may, employee salaries are paid, raw material vendors are paid, your other expenses are paid, government dues are paid, so that it does not stop just because your receipt from the customers are not there. See, there are very few businesses where your collections are upfront. What are those businesses? I'll give you an example. Suppose you are in a QSR, quick service restaurant, or you are in a restaurant. You'll get money upfront. There you don't need working capital, because at the end of the day, you are getting your collections upfront. A business like Zomato, for that matter, or the majorly e-commerce businesses where you pay upfront. Cash on delivery is there, but that also is almost immediate. As soon as you have given the goods, maximum you have placed an order, 2 days later you get the cash. 2-3 days में you get all your collections. So have you realized you are moving from especially in a B2C segment, we are moving from one delayed collection model to a immediate collection model, where whether you're shopping on Nykaa, you're shopping on Myntra, you're shopping on Grofers, you're shopping on Zomato, or any other website, or 1mg for medicines for that matter, you're actually getting your sales receipts instantly. And if you negotiate with your debtors, creditors properly, your vendors properly, you'll be in a negative working capital. What is a negative working capital? That you have zero receipts, only payables. Because no debtors. When I say receipts, I mean receivables. No, zero debtors, only creditors. It's a negative working capital. And what if debtors are there, like a traditional business model? For example, you are an OEM or you are a supplier to OEM. You supply tires to Maruti. Maruti will pay you in 90 days. Right? So what I'm trying to say that you have to assess what could be your revenue model which will lead to either positive working capital or negative working capital, a gross working capital or a net positive working capital or a net negative working capital. That is what you have to actually, decide. So what I'm saying is, after, once you actually go and decide about this, you have to analyze certain parameters. When I say parameters, for every type of a loan, parameters are different, but we are talking about working capital. So it could be a credit policy, it could be nature of business, economic boom. Like I was telling you, if you are Haldiram, your working capital requirement is twofold. One is seasonal, another is regular. You may need 50 crores on a regular basis, but you need 150 crores during the season only. So you have to tie up accordingly. You have to plan the fund infusion accordingly. Then what are the operation levels? What are the stock turnover ratios? What are the credit worthiness of that means your credit rating? What is the competition? What are the government policies? Like I was telling you earlier, there were few loans which were supposed to be repaid, but ultimately what we did is government came up with the ECGLS scheme. Go back and read about it. What is the ECGLS scheme of government? Where government is guaranteeing your borrowing from the banks. More you'll know about it, more you'll read about it, more you'll understand the structures. You'll understand that financing is very, very easy because you know the options. Unless you know the options, how will you know what is best for you? It's as simple as that. So even if we go for a buffet, we don't pick up the plate and start filling it, right? We have a habit of going around the entire hall and the spread of the buffet, checking out each dish, and then we start pouring it in our plate. It's as simple as that. Go check how many options are available, how many structures are available, what suits your business. So like in a buffet, you choose veg or a non-veg based on your eating preference or your day preference or your region preference, right? So assess what all is there available in the market, what kind of options are there, what kind of customizations are available. So if there is a pasta on a live counter, you can make it with a number of combinations, right? Similarly, if there is a working capital requirement, you can make it with a number of choices. That is where the art of financing comes into the play. Can you make it with an option like factoring or forfeiting, or supplier financing, or a customer financing, or purchase invoice financing, or sale bill discounting, or LCBD, or some kind of a structure which is related to export related structure, maybe a packing credit or a pre-shipment credit or a buyer's credit for imports. Can you do that? Can you do buyer's credit for capital expenditure? The buffet is yours. You should know what is served on the house and you can customize it and take it. So spend some time knowing about it. What are the latest trends like SPAC, which I told you? What are the latest trends? Perpetual bonds, which I told you. Like what are the trends in working capital? What is the positive working capital? What is the negative? Is negative working capital good? No, it's not good. So you have to really realize that what is exactly your fit and what are the available options which you have, right? So permanent and temporary, we talked about it. Like in case of Haldiram, let Diwali come, he needs another 100 crores of working capital because he knows within 3 months he can square off that working capital line. Similarly for schools or educational institutions, when admission happens, they print the books and all that. From Jan to March, That quarter they need more funds because they have to arrange books, uniforms, and whatever things. The companies are in that business. Moment April school opens, people buy, they can pay back their working capital. You have to understand. A publication house is a different requirement. Again, it could be a event-based working capital. When COVID happened, a lot of companies wanted to set up mobile units for vaccination, for testing. They needed, setups. So those were the temporary working capital requirements, event-based. So can that be worked out? Yes, that can be worked. Only thing is you should know your options, as I said, and then it can be worked out. With this, I leave you with a thought and actually a homework, which ideally I should not call it a homework, but yes, please go back, read the current scenario. The way I told you about Zomato, how bankers made money there, how investors made money there, what are the special purpose vehicle which are there, SPAC companies which are listed, what are the available options in packing credit or in export related units and import related units, what are the options in long term, short term, what are the perpetual bonds. Go back, read what is the Sharia financing. We discussed about, if you remember, we discussed about the sukuk and the Sharia financing, Islamic financing, which we talked about. So what I'm saying is that all that you have to really go back and understand. Then only it will make sense to you. So with this, I conclude my session, and I thank you, thank all of you for being wonderful audience, and especially Dilpreet and Bharat for allowing me to express my views. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Those were some points to mark and to learn and implement in our lives. And yeah, I would also encourage all of our audience to please go and read about all of these points. I would also personally myself as well. So thank you so much, sir. Really grateful. Thank you so much. So now, after this wonderful knowledge enhancing session, I would like to give you all the chance to put up the questions for Gaurav sir. So first of all, Gaurav sir, we have a question there. So is there any maximum tenure as per the stipulation for the perpetual debt that you mentioned for the Reliance case?
Perpetual means perpetual. See, again, there is nothing maximum or minimum defined unless it is, say, ECB. So ECB, there are terms related to average maturity. Every product has a different kind of a requirement, right? But can you fit it in? So now I'll tell you an example. You have borrowed it. You can refinance it a number of times, right? You can borrow another debt, pay this debt. You can roll it over 1 or 2 times. So it depends. See what kind of structures you will put in place to actually decide. But perpetual by design means perpetual. But is it very easily accessible? No. It was only Reliance who could do it. So that's what I'm saying. It's tradable bond. People, investors can get their money back by selling it to the other investor. But Reliance is never supposed to pay back. It does not have a definite maturity. So such structures are also available. Why? Because these are largely Japanese investors. They have a negative return. They are sitting there. They'll be having a minus 0.25% return. They say fine. Within Japan, we'll keep circulating money. You give us 8%. We are happy. You have to find out what is the demand supply gap and what could be the possible. That matchmaking concept is there. No, there are that matchmaking. If you can do with the right set of parties, believe me, you'll be rewarded. Right?
Right. So the next question is the funding norms like for debt or equity or the collateral value same in private sector banks like the nationalized bank, or there is some difference in the rules and regulations for private and nationalized?
No, so there is no rules and regulation about the nature of the collateral, but there are definitely rules related to what kind of a capital provisioning happens if there is a collateral or no collateral. The important thing is the public sector banks work in a typical fashion. They have a rule book. They need, if you go back to them and ask for working capital, they'll have a standard checklist, standard documentation. Private sector banks are more, flexible to design a solution according to you. They'll give you more options. In fact, if you really want to understand it, go to the website of SBI or a Bank of Baroda and go to the website of ICICI or Kotak. You will realize they'll have a segment called SME where they'll list all their products, what they can offer to SME. So that collateral is never ever a specified thing. Yes, it is specified from a RBI capital adequacy norms, but At the end of the day, it's a contractual arrangement. People borrow unsecured also, right? You, as an individual, you borrow loan against property, you borrow a personal loan, you borrow a credit card. So it depends what exactly is the contractual structure. Yeah, Dalpreet, next.
Okay. So the next question is, it's like a case scenario he has mentioned. So a company has a good track record of growth in sales and has a profitability steady and have no actually loans outstanding. Suppose they want expansion. Suppose they want a loan for the expansion of purchase of machinery for say 50 crore. Will the bank insist on collateral there as well, or the hypothecation of machinery would be good enough for that 50 crore loan?
As I said, it's never about just one case. It's about the overall scenario. What is the company? What is the company's credit rating? And especially, it's only just a loan against machinery. You have to, how will you pay back? See, banks are not in a business of selling your collateral and recovering their money. They want, see, bank is a fiduciary relationship. I have a saving account. They have taken money from me at 3%, they give me 3-4%, and they onward lend it at 12% and make the delta for them and make my money at 3%, right? At the end of the day, bank does not have its own money. It's a money of the saving account holders, right? So they have to act in a very, very fiduciary capacity. When I say, what does it mean? It means for machine, you will get a funding. How will you pay back? You will pay back with the business. Machine will produce goods, you will sell it. So you have to give charge over receivable also. Because tomorrow machine has a charge which has a depreciable value, which may depreciate faster than the loan repayment schedule. So you have to give charge over receivable, or you have to give a collateral, which is more to cover the gap between depreciable value and the asset value. So this is, you have to see, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So I think we have another question in which it actually says that for a company which actually does not have a history of financial performance. So like actually you may say of take an example of a startup. So how should they present themselves in front of the investors to actually raise fund in the form of debt or in fact equity as well? So,
See, again, that's what I'm saying. There are multiple programs for the startups also. Like few banks have a hunting line for startups. They give you 1 crore no collateral loan. Citibank gives you, private banks give you. My only question is, do you have all the options? Are you aware about all the options or not? It's very easy to say startups don't get loan. Government has subsidies for the startups. Go to Startup India and Stand Up India. They have, pledged funds for it. You should know how to get it. There are venture debt funds which provide you clean lines. There are funds which give you, interim funds between your fundraise. That's called bridge financing. Banks give you those lines based on certain parameters of the business. It may not be 20 crores, 30 crores, but smaller loans are always possible for the new startups. Once you're established startup, you can go back and ask for a higher line. So today I fund startups in Pan India and especially in North India. Believe me, you name the startup and I have it on my board. They're borrowing from me. Big, small, medium, all. It depends. What are your requirements? Can you justify? Can you come back to me, sit across my table and tell me, sir, I need this fund. This is my financial plan. Can you fund me or not? Give me a plan. See, again, I think we are driven by notions. We have to be driven by the practical scenario. Go back and check. Thousands of government schemes are there. Accelerator programs are there. Incubation programs are there. Give you funds. If you don't want a debt, go talk to the angel networks. They'll give you equity. They'll do the angel investing. You have to decide what do you want. Again, friends, I am very clear. If you're not desperate enough, you will not get a deal. If you want a deal, if you want something meaningful, show your desperation, put your efforts. मैं हमेशा एक बात बोलता हूँ which is very very relevant. People say I don't get success. People say I don't get a job. I don't get this. I say if you have given your 100%, you have to put your hand on your heart and say you have given 100%. Then only it will fructify. Find out the options. There are specialized funds for this. Those who do incubation, those who do acceleration. What is the difference between incubation? You have just an idea, you want to just check. They'll give you funds for that. What is acceleration? You have made the beta version, you have done a prototype, you want to launch it on a smaller scale for acceleration. They give you funds for acceleration. There are funds, they'll give you funds for commercial launch. Banks like us. Why not? Define where you stand, define where you want to go, and tell us what the plan is. And believe me, we'll be happy to fund. Right, Dilpreet?
Right, absolutely right, sir. Noted. So I think thanks for this Q&A session as well, sir. We don't have any other questions. So now I would like to hand over the mic to CA Bharat Jain. So for the concluding remarks and vote of thanks. Thank you, everyone.
थैंक यू दिलप्रीत जी। मैं आज के हमारे स्पीकर हैं गौरव जी, इन्हें धन्यवाद सर आपका बहुत बहुत, आपने टाइम दिया और लेट आवर्स में भी अभी चलता रहा सेमिनार। हालांकि मैं अटेंडीज देख नहीं पा रहा हूँ कितने हैं, पर शुरू में बात हुई थी 1000 से प्लस होंगे। और तो मैं नंदा जी का धन्यवाद दूंगा जिन्होंने इस हाई ब्रांच को ये अपॉर्चुनिटी दी ये प्रोग्राम होस्ट करने के लिए, और पूरी कमेटी का धन्यवाद। और दिलप्रीत जी आपका भी पूरा धन्यवाद, आपने पूरे टाइम एक्टिव रहे आप। हम तो फिर भी ऑफ करके चले गए थे, पर आप पूरे टाइम एक्टिव रहे और पूरे सेशन को संभाल रखा। तो थैंक यू एवरीवन एंड थैंक यू ऑल द अटेंडीज। थैंक यू।
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay. So we'll now end the session, right? Yes, we can end the session now.